Good day. Welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. In light of the significant quantities of gas that will be produced from ExxonMobil's Yellowtail and Uaru project in the Stabroek block, the oil giant has floated for consideration the establishment of another onshore processing facility. This recommendation was provided in its environmental impact assessment for its already sanctioned Yellowtail project. The suggestion was also repeated in the environmental impact assessment for the Uaru project, which is awaiting government approval. Currently, authorities are building an over $2 billion gas-to-energy project that will utilize excess gas from the Liza Phase 1 and 2 projects. This venture is expected to come on stream by 2024 and last for 20 years. Meanwhile, former Health Minister and Opposition Member of Parliament Valda Lawrence has tabled several questions in the National Assembly to ascertain the financing arrangements in place for the multi-million-dollar gas-to-energy project being pursued by the PPPC government in collaboration with ExxonMobil. In the questions posed to Prime Minister Mark Phillips, Lawrence asked for the nation to be told the cost of the gas-to-shore pipeline project and where or whom the government is sourcing the financing from. Lawrence also asked for details on the associated terms and conditions. The former minister called on Phillips to state if there would be a contingent liability on the government of Guyana if Exxon is unable to repay the loan it would use to cover the cost of the pipeline that would transport the gas from the Liza 1 and 2 projects to onshore facilities at Wales. And ExxonMobil plans to dump more than 1 million barrels of toxic oily chemicals overboard daily during the life of the Uaru project, estimated at some 20 years. This information is contained in the environmental impact assessment composed by the operator's consultant, Acorn International. According to that study, about 300 barrels per day of produced water, including oil and grease, residual production and water treatment chemicals, among others, will be dumped overboard from the project. About 2.2 per day of cooling water will also be thrown overboard. And a Guyana Revenue Authority employee last week arrested for selling fake documentation to a 35-year-old laborer of Bush Lot, Region 2. The 28-year-old GRA employee worked at the authority's administrative department, sold a bogus driver's examination pass paper, a document needed to apply for a driver's license to GRA, to the laborer. The laborer wanted to cheat the system in obtaining a driver's license, and the GRA employee assisted him by forging the document needed for the application. The man was then detained for questioning. During that process, he told investigators that he had purchased the document from a GRA staff for $100,000, believing it was a genuine one. And former Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Sidney Allicock, is arguing the need for Indigenous communities to be in control of their share of revenue earned through the sale of carbon credits. On December 2, 2022, the government of Guyana inked an agreement with American oil company Hess Corporation for the sale of carbon credits earned by Guyana for keeping its vast forest resource intact. Some 15% of these resources will go directly towards indigenous communities, according to Vice President Bara Jagdeo. Allicock's position comes even as the government in the past has given grants and facilitated medium-term projects such as the distribution of agricultural tools. You're listening to Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. This is your news at noon. We'll resume shortly after the break.
It seems like children have been home from school forever, and you've done baking, drawing, schoolwork, and played Ring of Roses about 100 times. We've all been under some strain lately, but let us embrace our children. They're under strain too. Let's show them more love, patience, and care. Let's help to build their resilience in these trying times. Not just today or tomorrow, but for the future. Their future. A message from the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and UNICEF.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Welcome back. The Inter-American Development Bank has approved $100 million to begin the Diamond Grove to Temeri Road project, Minister of Public Works Juan Edgil has announced. The loan was requested through the IDB's program to support climate-resilient infrastructure development. Under this program, the government intends to improve road safety, pedestrian infrastructure, and utility networks. The aim is to mitigate congestion and delays faced by commuters traversing along the corridor. And in other news, President Ali was on Tuesday conferred with the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award for the year 2023 by President of India, Honorable Drupadi Murmu. The award ceremony was held at the valedictory session of the 17th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas Convention 2023 in India. The award is the highest Indian award for non-resident Indian and overseas citizen of India or an organization or institution established and run by non-resident Indians or persons of Indian origin. And Guyanese making claims against alleged non-compliant local content oil and gas companies must make reports to the local content secretariat so that appropriate action could be taken to address the matter. This is according to the agency's public relations officer, Michaela Prince. We had reported recently on locals who say that oil and gas subcontractors are hiring foreigners and paying them higher salaries than Guyanese, despite them being able to do the same work. A former employee at Halliburton Guyana Inc. has also accused that company of failing to adhere to the law where Guyanese employment is concerned. The employee, who parted ways with the U.S. oilfield service provider last year, said that the company continues to ignore the law in relation to purchases and personnel. Presently, their local content record stands at a dismal approximate 23% to 25% in terms of personnel. Additionally, they are continuing to hire expats for positions which locals can fulfill. And in other news, Commonwealth Secretariat has released a new practical guide to help governments manage costly oil and gas decommissioning activities, which are expected to surge as a result of the global energy transition. In a newsletter, the Secretariat explained that decommissioning is a complex and costly process at the end of the economic life of an individual oil and gas project. Decommissioning involves the safe plugging and abandoning of wells, removal of structures, and restoration of the surrounding areas. It was stated that having robust systems in place to deal with decommissioning is therefore critical. And at this time, we close things off as usual with the page 7 of today's Kaieteur News, dedicated to being blunt. Loopholes in the law. Need some convenient loopholes in the law? Give the job to the PPP. A loophole to steal with impunity? See the PPP. Loopholes and zero penalty? Check the box marked PPP. Helpful loopholes and total immunity. This is how the PPP is running this country. And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today. Boost your sales with BOGO offer. Get double the radio ads in January when you advertise with Kaieteur Radio. Buy one, get one free. Contact us today on 226-7455 to discuss our advertising packages.
It is midweek, Wednesday, January 11th. I'm GHK Lal on Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Welcome to the National Outlook. Stop gas to energy Wales project before it becomes another failed Skeldon plant. Economists. Well, I'm sorry. It doesn't look as though anything or anyone, any Guyanese, can stop that Wales gas to shore project. I think the opposition is signaling that they will go to court for the pipeline. So when I talk about the project, Wales gas to shore, and I think gas to energy, we're talking about the three things in one. The pipeline to Wales, the natural gas liquids plant, and the power plant for electricity energy generation. Whether together or singly, here's the story. That project is going forward, and I say this most regrettably. The Vice President, the Honorable Vice President, in his wisdom, talks about studies and talks about, well, cheap electricity. He dangles those carrots in front of us, but he has not produced anything. He has not produced anything to back up his claims. We would like to see them. I would like to see them so I can give the Vice President an endorsement and say, you know what? Forget about what everybody else says. Based on the documents you have presented for public examination, this project is a good one for Guyana. We can't say that. We can't say that because nothing of substance has been presented to us. Studies, reviews, reports, nothing. It's what the Vice President says. It's what the PPP government says. And that ain't good enough for me. It's not, I don't know, it might be good enough for you, but it's not good enough for me. And $2 billion US, well, you're going to have to pay that back. You're going to have to pay that back, folks. So you can think it's the government money. Government doesn't have money. Government borrows money. Government gets money from taxes, and that's what it uses in the budget. It borrows and uses tax. Those are the two big pieces that funds budgets and projects. But at the end of the day, you've got to pay for those loans. You're going to have to pay taxes, higher or lower. So here's the story. Should the gas to shore, gas to energy project be stopped? I think it should be put on pause until such time that we have a full understanding of the ins and outs of this project. We don't have to be engineers. We don't have to be financial analysts and economists. We just have to be people with common sense. The experts will tell us, we will read for ourselves, and we'll say, you know what? This thing is really necessary, and it's good, and it's going to be good for us. I'd like to be in that position. And I invite the Vice President, I invite the PPP government to give me the basis so I can stand up here and speak about it, or I can write about it with conviction and say, I like this project, and what the government is doing has got a lot of substance to it, a lot of backing to it. The expert reviews and information and details are there. So I am for it. I'm not against the government. I'm against the things that it does. Every day I pray for the president and the vice president and the opposition. Believe you me, I kid you not. I am serious. I want them to do right by this country, because when they do right, we are in a good place. You are and I am. When they play these games of concealment, of dodges, of lashing out at people who speak out, then that's not democracy. That's not transparency. That's not clean governance. That's about leadership that wants to get its way any way possible. Well, I can't be for that. I'm sorry. I am not made that way, and I've never lived my life that way. And I don't intend to start that now. Stop the gas to energy project? I don't think it's going to happen, but at least give us something to go on. I'm GHK Lal on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Thank you for listening to the National Outlook.